Hello, welcome to Creativity-Hive's weekly program. My name is Miriam Haugen. I am part of the Creativity-Hive team. We help budding videographers achieve massive post-production skills through one-on-one teaching and live group coaching. And our weekly hangout brings you people working in video from across the globe. Be sure to leave a comment. Tell us where you're joining us from. And this week we are departing a little bit from the post-production part of it. Many of our guests in the past have been in the post-production world. Today we have Burnie Burns. Welcome, Burnie.
Thank you.
And so you are not a post-production person. You're a what? Well, tell us about yourself.
I am, well, I was a gaffer in Southern California for, probably 30 years, close to 30 years. And I was somebody who got into the business late. I was a 40-year-old PA, my first time on set.
Oh,
And
what's a PA?
A PA is production assistant.
Okay. See, I'm ignorant, so hopefully other
There
people
you
are
go.
too. Production
Well,
assistant.
I always have said this, and I truly believe it. Our personality finds us our jobs in media, and it really is true. I think if you're an editor or somebody who's in post-production, you're very detail orientated. You like to work by yourself. You know your goal. You know what you like. You know what you want. You're very opinionated about it. I was a different type of personality. I like to work in a group. I like to talk to people. I like to really sort of come to a consensus about what we want to do and make suggestions and do a lot of back and forth. So that's me. I'm a talker. And I think I truly almost have identified a big group of people. If you're a makeup artist, you're the type of person who really sees a face, right? And you can mold that face the way you want to. You see what works for them. So I think these personalities and these things that we do are because we select them. And so I've always known that the post-production was very detail oriented, liked to work alone, didn't want a lot of interruptions. They wanted to get the thing completed and put it out there, and then they'll take some feedback. So yes, I truly believe that. In my case, I was introduced to the business, and I had an inkling of like some cable TV up in Tacoma, Washington, where I'm originally from. And I was in Los Angeles. I worked for an automobile import company, and I had worked for them for probably 12 years prior to that. And they were going to transfer me to Lafayette, Indiana, and at an Isuzu plant. And I decided that after 2 years in Los Angeles, that wasn't going to be a good idea for me. So I was a $50 a day PA on set. I fell in love with it the first day. I knew I had to do more, and I just started PAing. And I was somebody who's actually had a lot of responsibilities in my previous job. So I knew about customers, I knew about clients, I knew who to service on the set. And I just started doing that. I also became an extra. So I worked as an extra so I could go to Hollywood. And that was like being paid to have an education. I saw how the big shoots did it. I saw how they lit. I saw how they worked. And that was really, really beneficial to me, because it was literally like learning how and being paid for it. Not much, but, I did that. And slowly, I got more and more work. The lighting crew picked me up because, number one, really, I was a guy, and they always needed more people on set than any of the other departments did. And so I got on with them and I sort of PA'd for them and did that. I was very diligent about what I did. Long story short, I started taking every check I got and I kept half of the money and I bought equipment with it. I'd buy a stinger or I'd buy a light or I'd buy some sandbags, and pretty soon I could fill up my little Suzuki Sidekick that I had, and I'd take stuff to every shoot I got, and I'd tell the DP or the gaffer, I go, look, you can use this stuff, you don't have to pay for it, but if there is some money, I'll take it. Well, that immediately put me up on the top rank because they knew I was going to show up with extra stuff, which you're always afraid,
Hey.
of people running out, right? Yeah. And
Smart.
so I got that. I started doing that. And within 6 years of starting that, I became the biggest grip and lighting supplier south of Los Angeles. And I had 4 trucks, I had 2 vans, and I was sending out 8 jobs a day. And if I had 3 jobs, it was like a day off. So
Wow.
I had some incredible, incredible luck.
Okay. Luck?
Well, luck and busting your ass, 14 hours a day. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, I'm going to bring Neil and Mo on here. That'll be fun. So we can
Great.
all.
Hi, Burnie. How are you?
Very good. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. Thank you very much for asking.
You're looking
Thank
very
you.
dark
Awesome.
today, Mo. There,
I'm
that's better.
sorry. Is that better? Yeah. I'm sorry.
There we go.
Webcam,
We got some
yes.
light in there now.
Yes, we were just talking before we came on about how important lighting is. But
Yes.
I'm curious, Burnie, about the how you got that first. I mean, you were a car salesman? Is that
No, I wasn't a salesman. What we did is we were a car importer. So,
okay?
when these ships bring over like 10,000 cars, say like Mitsubishi or Isuzu, in those at the time, or
Okay.
Toyota, they come over in these huge ships. Then they land at a port. Well,
Right.
you have certain tax breaks that the car companies get if you put air conditioning on them in the United States, if you put stripes on them in the United States, they give a tax break for that. And you have to house 10,000 cars and then ship them out to dealerships all over the United States. So that's mainly what I did is I worked in the yard and I was shipping. So I
Okay.
would allocate these cars to be shipped to different dealerships.
So I'm just wondering, how did you get that first job as a PA? Did you meet somebody?
Well, I lived, a friend of mine from Tacoma was a DP, and he just had an opening on their job for a PA, could pay $50. And I said, yeah, I'll go out there, I'll do that, and then immediately just loved the lifestyle.
Yeah.
It was like, oh man, you're at the seat of your pants, you're making things happen. You're making it up on the spot a lot of times,
Yeah.
and that really appealed to me because I had lived in this numbers world. I had lived in, this unit's going over here, this VIN number needs to be corrected, this blah, 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 all this paperwork. And here I was in something that was really creative. And from there, I just, I was in Los Angeles, the movie making capital of the world. So I became an extra. I got on set. I would work for anybody. I mean, most of the people, I was 40 years old, most of the directors and people working on the set were half my age, or at least 10, 15 years younger. I always joked, I said, they must think I just got out of prison or something, So that was, there was a hurt and a help with that. First of all, you don't know how many clients came on and started talking to me like I was the director and I was actually the PA because I was, the hair. And they at the same time, it hurt me because a lot of the crews, lighting crews, did not want to hire me because they were younger guys and they all had
Yeah.
their friends working. So that hurt me. But what that did was make me not be afraid to go out and get my own equipment and start and then build up so quickly where I got my own clients. And I found getting clients was the easiest thing I had ever done. That was a no-brainer. And I think it was because of my business background that I had.
Mo has more experience on a live production set like that than, of course, Miriam or I would. But we built our set, sometimes rather elaborate ones, for our photography, and our photography is high end. People think we take pictures. There was a lot of work that went into those pictures. We had to create the lighting and very definitely, and of course, for many years it was with film, which you had no latitude with, and so.
Right.
You had to very carefully craft every shadow, every highlight, every reflection. And so we got used to doing that kind of thing. And that's actually the thing that I think translated the most over going into any kind of video was the lighting knowledge. And the strange thing is so few people pay much attention to lighting these days. And I'll just look at it. It's one of the things, because with all my stuff on mixing light, I'm hearing from the colorists constantly. There's a thread on Mixing Light Slack this morning where someone is noting, oh God, I hate it when I'm working with people that don't understand how to do it. They're sending me 8-bit ProRes that wasn't properly light on set, and then they expect me as a colorist to do something with it. Fix it doesn't work at that point.
Yeah, right.
They needed someone like you involved to begin with.
Here's the thing. Like I had said earlier, I light for emotion. I want to tell the story. That is my modus operandi in lighting. You have to be exposed. Obviously, you have to send that message, and you have to do everything you can to make it work and tell the message. I find that people. When you light every day, and that's something, when you go on set and you are just specifically the lighting person or the person that they hired because they want your expertise. And I've had a lot of jobs where people just say, we didn't really need you, we just want you here. Yeah. We want that backstop. We want you to tell us if we're doing something wrong. That's good. The problem is, and it's with clients, is that they're not, if they knew more about lighting, and that's one thing that I don't know if I used to have a hour-long show every Friday on Facebook. I had it for 4 years where I just talked to people I knew, my contemporaries. And, we talked always about educating people, letting them know what we know, because they're going to make better decisions about what to do in that case. I saw a lot of lighting guys that would go out and they'd sell their truck, and they'd pull everything off it, charge the client tons of money, and they didn't need all that stuff. Now, I'm a huge proponent of making money. Don't get me wrong, but simpler is better. What I finally learned in all my education and all my learning, less is more. I, in the last 10 years of my career, tried not to light. That was my goal, is I want to light as minimally as possible. Of course, it's all different projects. You're doing different things all the time.
I thought it would be kind of fun to show, but I don't know if I'm going to try to do it right on the fly here. But anyone, you guys should follow Burnie on LinkedIn, because he has some really great posts, and a recent one where there were just 2 lights. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah. It's one I did about emotion, and to me, it is about emotion. It's about telling a story. In fact, a lot of people they come in and we go, okay, we're going to light the star or the person, the CEO, whomever they are.
Yeah.
What I would do is I'd take the key light, I'd put it on set, put it by the chair they were going to be in, and turn the light on. Everything else after that was the background. I focused totally on the background because the background from the tight shot to the wide shot is going to tell the story. That's the environment they're in. And I knew always they'd give me time to light the person when they came in. So I wasn't worried about spending all this time, preparing for the person, because they would let me, I could sneak that time. They would never let me light a background after the person was in. So that was my thing as far as that goes. I think emotion is so important, and it gets lost constantly. All we are is an emotional medium, whether it's a still, whether it's a moving, whether it's a video, that's what it's about. And I think you have to constantly remember that, what's the message? What's the story? I keep coming back to that over and over again.
We were just watching the appendices for the Lord of the Rings movies the last few nights, and one of the things that Peter Jackson was commenting at one point was on a scene where late in the final movie where Frodo and Sam are fighting, that they had, well, they were doing it, and they did one thing of it with both cameras operating, which he says normally, you work with one camera from one angle, and then you shoot another 6 scenes, takes of it with the camera focused on the other angle and the other character. And but they did a few to start with cameras on both of them going. But when they got into the editing of it and they were looking at it and they were just going, these shots aren't in some ways as technically perfect as the ones where we're dealing with the camera that's been slightly repositioned and the actor's been repositioned a little bit so that they get perfect. But the emotion between the two characters was so much stronger in it that no, we're going with the 2-camera setup, cutting back and forth there, because that it was just more emotion. And you got to have the emotion.
Emotion trumps everything. Emotion it's we're emotional animals. We respond to things that we like or don't like or repulsed by or any of those things. As long as you can grab that, I mean, that's the lightning in a bottle. Right there is the emotion of the scene. The actor who's living it, not just reciting it, but living it. That's what you want to catch. That's what you want to get. And for me, hey, I'm doing an egg extractor shoot. Okay, I'm doing a hard-boiled egg peeler. I mean, where's the big emotion in that?
Really?
You've got a background. You know what I mean? You can create a feeling and a place that I don't care about the egg extractor. I want that kitchen. I want to be there. I want to be that person. I want to be that efficient in the kitchen. I want to have all of those things. So I'll buy the egg extractor.
Yeah. Great. A quick question. I mean, if you look at feature films, big Hollywood blockbusters, and I'm not talking about Marvel. I'm talking about Chris Nolan kind of stuff. If you look at Prometheus and Batman, etc., I've always wondered about the following. They try to recreate reality as far as possible using lighting setups, elaborate lighting setups. But it's always struck me as weird because it's never really looking like emotion. It looks like over reality. It's over reality. It's very different from what the human eye sees. But if you put something that the human eye sees, it's got this kind of soap opera look. So
Mhm.
my question to you, based on what you said before, and I'm a big proponent of what you said, do as little as possible, use as little as possible to get the emotion out there and make it look really great at the same time if you can. Now, this doesn't mean not using lighting at midnight and your ISO ratings are going to go completely weird. But do you feel that would be possible to do a feature film, a big Hollywood blockbuster feature film, with as minimal amounts of gear as possible? It's a pretty interesting question in my mind.
I think the answer is yes. You could, but the movies fill a different role in our industry. Everybody looks to the movies like, oh, it's the movies. You know what I mean? They do.
Yeah.
Well, the movies get all the R&D.
Yes.
They have budgets that can just, that is not even comparable to anything. I don't know, a $200 million budget,
Yeah.
to make a movie. I mean, come on. And I used to do press junkets for Sony Columbia TriStar. And that's where we'd go into a room, they'd clear out a whole, floor, the 14th floor of the Beverly Hills Four Seasons. And we'd go in and light the stars and talk to the directors and do that, in all of these little rooms and do that. You come away with a very different perception of movies. Here's part of my issue was always this too. Everybody compares lighting and storytelling to the movies. It's not that. That's a big budget kind of international corporation view of entertainment. I think it is, and I think people actually demonstrate that. Just a Pulp Fiction, for example.
Yes.
That was done on. I mean, I knew the guy that did sound on that, and there's several friends that I have that are on Facebook that talk about these, things in some of the crew forums. It was a shoestring. It was a budget. Robert Rodriguez, if you remember, I can't remember the name of that first movie he did, but it was, that was shot in Mexico. That was done on next to nothing.
Right.
I do think you can do that, but when you start looking at the bigger directors, the bigger people, the bigger stars, the names attached, that's a different place they're at. That's a different thing they're going to do because they're, being bought and sold to do that,
Right.
So I think you're right. You can do that. And not only that, I would encourage people to do it.
To do it.
But
Yes.
yeah, but unfortunately, the movie industry, very unlikely you'll make much money in it.
Definitely.
There's people that will make hundreds of millions in it, but not a lot of people will make a bunch of money doing movies anyway. It's a great art form, but
do you think with the age of in 2022 in the digital kind of age where everything's moved over to mobile, where people are beginning to shoot full feature films on handheld devices, there's some amazing stuff I've seen. It's crazy what Apple's done on iPhone. Do you think there's a paradigm shift, or do you still see the giants ruling the coop? I still see them ruling the coop, definitely, because the large like Columbia TriStar and Sony owns Paramount and so all these guys, Time Warner, and so do you see a niche area for these sorts of filmmakers who want to break out the mold and show people that, like you said, less is more, and less can be as beautiful as more is? And do you see that happening in the? I personally see it happening, but I don't think it's going to break into the Hollywood realm, and that's something I'm wondering why not.
Well, Hollywood is Hollywood. That's a business model.
Right.
You're never going to disrupt that model. Now, Hollywood will co-opt everyone who's successful in that other world. Because what do they want to do? They want to make a big budget movie, right? They want to be famous. You know, I mean, there's no star that's going to go, oh no, the budget's too big. You know what I mean? I don't want to do that. You know, they work on a lot of little stuff, but that it has its place in the ecosystem. You know, when I was doing those big budget films, working with you know, a lot of different actors and a lot of different directors, you know, and the studio people, the marketing studio people, and that's one thing that most people don't understand that is so powerful is the PR and marketing departments of movies. There's no one bigger, no one better. And they will have you believe everything. I mean, I hear people talking about what Angelina Jolie did, and I just like, you know, your head wants to explode sometimes, you know.
Well, Burnie, understand that Mo and I deal a lot with, of course, Adobe and the Adobe application.
I was just thinking about this.
You talk about the power of marketing. When you actually get a chance to visit with the engineers and the program managers and everything, you find out that the program head people think is so powerful. Yeah, somebody that's way down the chain in M&E, marketing and experience, walks in the room and expects him to stand.
Yes.
Marketing rules.
Marketing rules. So, yes, absolutely. That's the hub where all the spokes come from. You know, it's the least understood of any of the mediums too, is PR marketing. But I'll tell you, here's what I view media as, first of all, I always use the term, and I love it, but it's a disposable media. There's so much disposable media out there now. It's meant to be consumed once by somebody and then discarded. And they don't need to see it again. They don't want to see it again. They unwrapped it, ate the candy, and they're moving on. But a million people in the chain do that, you know? And I think there's, you know, it's like the budgets went, I remember, first of all, I got in the industry when video was overtaking film. So in other words, you weren't doing it in a 16 millimeter anymore, you were doing it on a video camera, you know? So I saw that transition, I felt that those pains, you know. Then online came on, and you know, there was a thing like, oh, don't worry, this is just for online. Oh, so you can do anything, right? And then it became, well, this is going online, you know, this is important. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And all those transitions just did one thing. They took $100,000 budget, which is what the budgets were, and most of that budget was editing at that time. They used to hide my crew and truck in the editing budget, you know, because it was an afterthought. It was a correction, you know. It was like doing that. But those budgets were $100,000 for a small project. But that went down to 10 projects for $10,000. Now, instead of a truck, I'm coming out in a van, and it's just me and another guy. You know?
Right.
So that's, and I think this process is going to continue and continue, because you see it where there's creators on Facebook, creators on LinkedIn now, you know, creators doing this. You just, like you said, you can do it with a camera, you can do it. But I come back to one special thing. What's the message? What's the emotion of the message? It doesn't matter what you're using. You know, it matters what you're selling. What emotion do you have in there? What do you want to accomplish? You know, so that's where I stand on that.
That's fantastic. I see a very interesting term, a few interesting terms on your LinkedIn: media futurist, jetpack enthusiast, Live in Two Worlds. It's got to be the greatest biography titles that I've seen in a while.
Well, thank you. I
It's,
appreciate that.
it's quite amazing. So I see media futurist in what you're saying, but what do you predict for the short term future? Let's call it 5 years within the film industry, given that there's been such a rapid rate of change in the digital arena with the M1 chip and the iPhone. And do you foresee or predict, as a media futurist, I'm sure you make a lot of predictions, what do you predict in television commercials have all but died. Agencies have all but died. Apple's doing in-house. Google's doing in-house. Microsoft's not talking agencies anymore. So everyone's learning because technology shrunk. NLEs are just a single MacBook now. You really do not need a studio. Your DAW is living inside your MacBook as well. So you're doing a whole score without the big budget ones, of course. So what do you think the future holds in 5 years or so for up and coming digital creators? And when I use that term digital creators, it's there's a plethora of these guys out there shooting stuff, but there's a handful of stuff that's really emotionally charged, like you say. And funny enough that you said you believe in emotion, because when I first opened my studio, my motto was creating motion. And Neil knows I do this. If you don't have emotion in your edit, either from the music or the visuals or combination thereof, you are wasting your time. So I completely am on the same page as you. So again, back to that question was, what do you feel, how do you see the industry shifting in the next few years?
I call myself a media futurist without knowing what the future of media is. Let me just say that,
Right, yeah.
So I'll give that caveat. But what I would say is the overall picture for that is more refined audiences. Remember, what is the key thing that we have gotten away from? That's the mass media, the mass marketing, selling that car to everyone, selling that thing to everybody. You want identifiable audiences with a specific message. So I think that's the future. And I think here's how it manifests itself. It comes down to finding that person who talks to a specific audience. And I think that's sort of what my feeling or how I work on LinkedIn is. I talk to the production audience. I talk to the production people. I focus more on actual physical production than what you guys do, which is talking to the post-production.
Right.
Now there is a split in that and if you can hone your message and just say monetize your message, to come to that point, I think that's more of what's going to be happening than anything else. Look, I worked on a prototype video on the first Red camera. It was basically a lens, a computer on a Rubbermaid cart. Okay, we shot the first video on a Red like that, and that revolutionized movie making, because now Arri couldn't sit still anymore. They had to come out with 4 or 5 different cameras to try to capture that market. Panavision which was the gorilla, the gorilla in the room. They probably saw happening and thought, oh, well, this is interesting. I wonder if that'll work. Just that question alone cost them their place in the industry. a lighting company that I know, I'm not going to mention their name, but they made tube lighting, right?
Mhm.
They immediately did not shift over to LED. They didn't
Okay.
make that, their primary force. They made it they were still doing a gas, so they did, daylight and tungsten.
Yeah.
They lost because they didn't make that shift quick enough. You have to read the market now, and you have to know what the market's going to do. And any hesitation, I would say, now is your death knell.
Yeah.
You have to adopt and fail. So what? It didn't work.
Yes.
You don't
Yeah.
like it. This technology didn't go anywhere. You have to have a mindset of adaptation, constant adaptation.
Yeah.
There's an old military aphorism that it is far better to make a decision, the wrong decision, and move immediately than sit there long enough to think up the right decision. That the side that
Absolutely.
thinks up the right decision gets crushed, and the side that makes the wrong decision 3 times in a row wins because they were moving. And
Yes.
it's very much something that seems to be going on in our industry now.
There
Very
was
much so.
the CEO of Nokia. They did an interview with him, and he began crying on stage because he said we didn't adopt quickly enough because
Yeah,
they
they
wanted
were
to keep the old
huge.
model. Because Apple was leading and Samsung was adapting really quickly, and that's why they also market leaders. And Nokia said, no, people are not going to need smartphones. They're just going to need these sorts of phones. And bang, a huge multi-billion-dollar company, bang, instantaneously, a market leader died. So I think the scary part for most people to adopt is the fact that they want to lead. They don't want to follow. And that's the mistake in 2022 you cannot afford to make. Follow and better on that follow. And that's how
Yes.
you would adapt. So that's
Yes.
great. Which brings us to your lovely jetpack enthusiast.
Oh, that looks dangerous to me. No, not really. I realize they have lots of safety things, but
not that many. No, not that.
You got to follow him on LinkedIn and watch him on his jetpack.
So what led you to this jetpack journey? Is there a reason you chose jetpacking?
Yes, because I turned 70 and I feel like an old man. So I had to do something to get off the stick and put a jetpack on and run around like a 25-year-old idiot. Yeah, that about sums it up, honestly.
Hey, when I was a young man, I jumped out of a perfectly good airplane 15 times.
Oh, man. Yeah, I would not do. That I would not do. Yeah. Jetpacking, first of all, Richard Browning is an amazing person. And I was totally fascinated when I saw his design with the arms, that he had and the way he set the jetpacks up and could actually fly. And I mean, you got to remember, I'm a 70-year-old guy, right? Seeing somebody flying around is like magic to me. That's like can't happen. That's just not even supposed to happen,
Right,
So
right.
I was really truly fascinated with it. And the industries, there's another company in California called Jetpack, and I ran into them. They don't do as much social like as Richard Browning does. He's the king. But I went up and took a jetpack 2-day course with them where they show you the basics and all that and do this, get you up off the ground, tethered, obviously, and then just show you how to operate it. That system is much more demanding than the gravity system where you have the arms. You're actually using your body to move around, when you have the arms and the jetpacks on there. So that was a little easier, but I was fascinated with it. It is still very much an inventor's industry. You know,
Right.
the people who that invented these things are still the primary users of them. But for me, it represented the future. You know, it represented the ability of an individual to fly somewhere and
Right.
do something. I don't think the iteration that they're in now is going to be the end iteration, you know, and it will probably not be fuel powered in its final iteration. It'll
Sure.
probably be electronically powered, you know, but still the thought of that, you know, hey, I'm putting the jetpack on and I'm running down to the store, you know, and I'm going to go in and pick up a quart of milk and fly back, you know. That is very, very, very exciting to me. But hence my age, I had a 5-way bypass in 2016,
Holy
and
moly.
I've had 2 strokes in January 2020, and I had another one in later in 20. So I did lose the use of my right hand where I can't fully close it, and that impeded in my ability to operate both of those systems.
Right.
So where I could probably get modified enough to do the gravity system, I
Yeah.
don't know if I'll pursue that or not. But I'm still a huge jetpack enthusiast. You know, I think the industry has a long way to go. And just I don't know if you're aware of this, but the cost of both systems, either gravity or jetpack, is about $440,000.
Holy
So
God.
it's not your hobbyist motor. And in fact, if you buy one, they don't give it to you. They keep it, and
Oh.
you have to fly with them. So you know it's that type of thing. But I think there's a huge transportation future that is happening right now that is really still below the surface. You know, the flying cars,
Yeah.
the flying taxis, that's all there. That's all there.
And what is the for those 90% of people probably haven't 99 haven't experienced jetpacking. What does it feel like on an emotional level?
Scary, frankly. Yeah, it's not, you know, when you see it, I mean, it looks like a bird. It looks like magic, you know. When those jetpacks are going off in your hand and on your back, and it's hot and you smell it and it's loud. I mean,
Right.
it's loud, you know. You're taking it real serious. You know, I did, you know, I mean, I was like, geez, what have I gotten myself into? The first time I had a jetpack on and that thing flew, and they're going, okay, now turn the handle, you'll start rising. Ah, you know, so yeah, it's emotionally, it's a big responsibility when you're out there with it.
Did you ever
Fantastic.
see the film The Rocket Man?
Oh yeah. Oh, I saw Rocket Man. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man,
Yeah, I
we
love
watched that.
love
We
that
own
film.
it. We've watched it
Yeah.
several times, and you know, anytime we watch it, we just go, "Yeah, I want to have that pack," and go. Whoosh.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's what
Yeah.
I wanted to do too. I wanted the pack and just
Right.
fly around, see all my friends, you know.
Oh,
do
yeah, I'm
all
sure,
that,
Craig,
but-
you've seen the military applications that's been on social media. The guy that flies to, you know, the ship in mid
the
ocean.
ships.
That's
Yeah.
completely crazy. I mean, that's a different
Yeah.
level of jetpack. It's insane.
And that's really how it will manifest itself
Yeah.
in the very first iterations. It'll be a military application. It'll be an emergency application too.
Yes.
You know, if somebody is injured up in the mountains, and you've probably seen that, and that's Richard Browning who does all
Yes.
that stuff.
Yes.
You know, the first most important thing if somebody is injured is get aid to them. You know, not rescue them, not take them, but aid is the first important thing. if you can have something like this that takes you up that mountain in a minute or 2 minutes, and you can get that emergency aid to somebody, that can save their life, you know. So those will be the types of things, and the military ship to ship, you know, I mean, one of the jetpacks, one of the, you know, there are, I think somebody said this, more people had been to the moon than have flown jetpacks.
Whoa.
Okay.
Wow.
So
That puts it
that
in
may
perspective.
that may have just crossed the line in the last 6 months. But that's still pretty true. You know, one of the people in jetpack, I know one of the licensed people, and they go through the FAA, is a Green Beret, or not a Green Beret, he's a SEAL, you know, Navy SEAL. And I think those are the types of applications that could, you know, I know they sold one to a Southeast Asian country, which they didn't identify. They sold 2 jetpacks.
Right.
I think one of the things too is going to be the flying motorcycle, which Jetpack is coming out with, that can carry up to 250 pounds, maybe a little more, and do 150 miles an hour, you know.
Wow.
But you always have the fuel capacity issue too. So the more it weighs, the more fuel it uses, the more faster it goes through the fuel, the less distance you have. You know,
I think they probably will look at adaptation. I've been reading something about hybrid technology, like with cars that are fuel based, and then they have a kinetic motor as well, which is driven by the wheels and builds up energies. So you can switch between battery power and fuel. But the hybrids, like the new Porsche and so forth, they're actually hypercars. They're not even supercars. Based on that hybrid, they've managed to harness that power so that just the battery alone accelerates to 0 to 60 miles an hour in 2.5 seconds. It's quite ludicrously crazy. So I think they're going to try to harness the power of maybe wind or air to supplement the fuel so that it can fly for far longer. But it's pretty interesting that you said this about the military, because normally everything is first military and then it's brought down to civilian level. And what my next kind of question would be, do you really see something like everything that's happening in the movies is coming true? I'm just putting it in a nutshell. I mean, if you look at this, The Edge of Tomorrow, I think with Tom Cruise, where he keeps waking up in the same day, there's a lot of jetpack stuff in there. And there's a myriad of movies that actually you kind of look at it and say, holy God, that 10 years ago, I didn't even believe we'd be doing this today. And man hasn't learned from this. So Prometheus, we're going to find another planet. Aliens, there's probably life out there, etc., etc. And the funny thing is, man is not stopping. Elon Musk, let's just put it that way, is not stopping he wants to go out there and get it done. But has mankind not learned from movies? I know it's quite a funny thing, but it's the biggest lesson learner you can learn from is science fiction movies. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I love science fiction movies. You know, there's 2 things here. One is the creative process, and that's somebody who is looking out there and is the true creative. They're writing this, they're doing it. The other thing is money. You know, there are people that are always researching things for movies, you know, finding out what was the one that Steven Spielberg did with Tom Cruise, where I can't remember exactly. Oh, Minority Report. Minority Report.
Yes.
Yeah. There was a classic case of they really went out and did the 50 years in the future type stuff, you know, and really researched it and really had a lot of things, you know. Right now, the eye identifications, you know, how they market to you, all of that stuff. You know, even some of the Star Trek, the transporter stuff, you know, there are people that have taken molecules and been able to transfer where that molecule
Definitely.
I mean, I think, I think well, let me not get too down the rabbit hole with this, but, being over here in Turkey, I've learned a lot about communication. I don't speak Turkish, right?
Right. Yeah.
There is more going on than we imagine with a continuum, I don't care what you want to call it, mind to mind happening, where we don't identify it because we don't talk about it that much and we don't think it's there and it's too hard to define.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's a continuum that's coming to us all the time with ideas, and all of a sudden things become popular around the world. How does that happen?
Yeah.
It's easy to know how now, but things are invented in the past all around the same time. Alexander Graham Bell with a phone, another guy in Italy does the same thing, So I think there's this, and I don't know what it is, but I think there's this thing that is going on all the time like that. And look at the rate of change at this moment. Look at the rate of change now. 5 years, you ask me what's gonna happen in 5 years? Who knows?
Okay, I'm going to ask a question here because we need to wrap things up. And my question though is, what's 5 years in Burnie's future?
Oh boy, hope I'm alive.
You will be.
Do you have any
I-
plans or hopes, or what are you
I-
working on? Or
I always have a plan. More I'm leaning towards the cultural right now. I really want to look at the history. I mean, the town I live in is 3,000 years old. I really want to look back and look forward. Culturally, I'm much more interested in people now than I was before. I think if I was going to do something, it's about getting smaller, not bigger for me. I'm living in this community. There's one question that somebody, when they go, oh, where are you from? Because I'm obviously an English speaker. I'm not the norm. In fact, I joke that it's like I'm wearing a big Uncle Sam head, and walking around town. They go, where are you from? And I go, Los Angeles. Oh, their eyes. I mean, that's like the most exotic place in the world that somebody could ever be from, And the next thing out of their mouth is, why did you move to Sinope?
Right.
Like, what kind of idiot would move from Los Angeles to Sinope? And I try to tell them, when you have something that's in its sort of a pure state, right? This is a little fishing town on the Black Sea. There's 20 bread bakeries around here. There's 20 meat markets. There's 30 fish markets, and you buy your stuff fresh. Look, the eggs I just bought in the store still have the chicken shit on them. Okay.
Right.
I mean, you lose that, you never get it back. And this is what I tell them. I go, value what you have. Value what you have. And I've been taking this last few days, actually, even just say, I go, think locally, market globally. Sell what you have here to the world. And it's just like, they look at you just like, well, what do we have here?
Right.
But they've got pure food.
Everything.
I go to the bazaar where they sell the food. They sell everything at the bazaar. Take pictures of the food. I get 200 likes on Facebook. People are going nuts over the food.
Right.
They sell honeycombs in the bazaar. I'd never seen a honeycomb. I only seen honey in the jar.
Right.
Fresh fish coming from the sea every day. And I could go on and on, but the value is pure. The value is here. That's what I think my next 5 years is going to try to be, is connecting back to the real world, you know,
Right.
and real people.
Fantastic. Absolutely well said. Brilliant. So you're in a place that's a gem, I guess. LA is
a
just,
jewel,
you know,
yes.
you buy everything in a bottle. It's all
Yep.
processed. You're in a place that a few of these places still exist in the world. You're actually very lucky to be there. You will be around in 5 years. You'll probably be around far longer than most of us will be.
Anybody's guess, my friend. Anybody's guess on that one.
You're
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up here.
Hey,
Thanks,
I
everyone.
really feel like I just did my phone conference here with some new friends I met. So
Yeah.
thank you
Absolutely.
so much.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so
Thank
much.
you
It's been a
for
joy.
joining us.
Yeah. Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you. All right.